Thank you, Speaker. I rise on the item number 12, the performance assessment report for the Group Information Communication Technology Department. Notably, Speaker, the GCIT department only achieved 50% of its KPIs. That's 5 out of 10. Considering the core mandate of the department, it is clear that there's room for improvement on the part of the department. Amongst the KPIs not achieved is the rolling out of the new Wi-Fi hotspots. In the quarter under review, Speaker, no new Wi-Fi hotspots were deployed. The report states that this is due to delays by MTC in laying out the fiber on the identified sites. The provisioning of hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots, is a service that thousands of our residents rely on to access economic opportunities. Failure to achieve this KPI is indeed a setback in the sense that it holds back the potential of our residents who rely on this provision, particularly students and the youth of the city of Johannesburg. Having said this, Speaker, I do not doubt that the department under the multi-party government had the capacity to deliver on this required improvement. This government, Speaker, was on its way to deliver a Joburg that our residents yearn for. It is only said that the power-hungry ANC's efforts to grab power and halt progress on service delivery agenda seems to be propelled by the help of minority opposition parties who don't seem to have anything moral to stand for. This, Madam Speaker, this was demonstrated by their actions in the past few weeks.
30 seconds.
Of supporting the ANC for the sole purpose of seeing themselves benefiting in the form of positions. This kind of politics, Speaker, of the politics of the stomach must be punished at the polls. It's the kind of politics that takes away the attention required to provide service delivery to our residents and concentrates this attention to the minority parties whose sole mission is to hustle their way into high office unjustly and without sufficient electoral mandate.
Thank you. Time is up. Councillor Sodabi.
Well done, well done.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good evening, Madam Mayor and the residents of Johannesburg and all other protocol observed. The Finance Department has not achieved as well as a Finance Department that must manage and oversee a budget of 77 billion rand should. The Amaglut government that was unelected in November 2021 allowed untold damage to run rampant within this department. Measures have been put in place and measures are being considered to change the trajectory of this most important department in the city of Johannesburg. As part of the business process improvement, the Group Finance Department has recorded several milestones achieved in its programs, as noted by many councillors. That the property rates revenue collected exceeded budget, that the Zenzele electronic bill and payment portal is successful, that water and power meter readings can be uploaded by customers, that the continuation of open days has created a space for residents to resolve queries, that the debt rehabilitation program phase 3 has written off more than 100 million rand in debt, which is more than double that was written off in the previous 2 phases, and that the department reported 100% reduction, which means zero. 100% of any number is that number, and 100% reduction means zero UIFW in quarter 4 of 21. So even though progress has been made, the ill-advised decision to deny the Development Bank South Africa report being tabled here today will be problematic for the city, as the leader of executive business detailed in her request for the matter to serve. Bearing in mind that Councillor Arnold had signed off the report, it had been approved in programming to serve in this council today, and it was meant to serve in the one and only interrupted, illegitimate MACOM committee that was convened on Monday. And City Power did indeed not have a positive balance in December 21. It would take more than 9 months to introduce a debt of 6.7 billion rand. The bank balance on June 2022 was 6.6 billion rand. In cash, the bank balance that we encountered in December 2021 was 3.9 billion rand. That is a hemorrhage of a whopping 2.7 billion rand in 6 short months. The loss in the following 6 months, between January 22 and June 2022, is troubling nonetheless at a further 100 million rand. That 2 billion rand loan would have gone a long way to assisting the city to recover from the 2.7 billion rand loss experienced in the first 6 months of this financial year. The Amaglut government hemorrhaged that money. The city was in serious trouble in December 21 when we arrived. Madam Speaker, you have been warned about the consequences of not allowing that report to serve. Our residents are already challenged by 2 years of COVID economic disaster, a war in Ukraine affecting their cost of living, fuel prices on a parabolic increase, and interest rates on the rise. We cannot take our cap to them. I hope that you will be able to explain to our residents that you are the reason for any financial distress that this city endures as a result of your irrational decision. This multi-party government, the Coalition of Hope, is the only government that can bring this department back on track to deliver the golden repair and to create a city of golden opportunities that Johannesburg was always meant to be. I thank you.
Chairperson Masuku.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I did acknowledgements earlier on, Madam Speaker, Councillor Majola is correct. As a committee, we have raised concerns about the issue of Wi-Fi, because indeed what we have agreed is that Wi-Fi has become a basic right that everybody does need. And therefore, it's alarming for the committee because we have raised concerns about the inability of the implementation of the rollout as it relates to fiber. Councillor Radebe is also correct. As a committee, we have raised concerns about the delays in the Section 79, about the Section 71 reports not making their way to the committee. It was painful when the MMC, Sudabe, couldn't explain to the committee, grasping at straws, councillors, about why the Section 71 reports for May and June were not there. Yes, they are in the pack now. They are in the pack now in October, but oversight cannot happen if we don't get financial reports in a committee.
Councillor Masuku, please sit down. Councillor Sadabi.
Thank you, Speaker. On a point of order, we are discussing Quarter 4's, not Section 71 reports. We
Councillor Sadabe.
Section 71 reports.
Councillor Sadabe.
Thank you.
Councillor Sadabe, when you are supposed to discuss your report, you are discussing me. So, Councillor Masuku, please proceed.
Madam Speaker, there's serious concerns about the declining cash balance that we raised in the committee, as shown by the 3.8 billion cash balance compared to the 6.6 billion the administration had in June 2021. And we are worried as a committee, if the city is in trouble financially, we must be honest, we must be transparent and communicate to residents. The committee also raised concerns about the inability of attendance by the MMC in other committee meetings. Lastly, we do want to say, hide nothing from the masses of our people. Tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are around, must no difficulty and failures, claim no easy victories. I ask you, internalize that and tell residents of Johannesburg, if the city does not have money.
Councillors, I got you, just wait. Councillors, whoever has the mic on, please switch it off.
Thank you, Speaker. It is of great concern to me that a litany of lies causes, it shows that nobody.
Councillors, Councillor Serabi, your behavior is unbecoming. When you attack other people, expect to be attacked and take it with your chin up. Thank you. Councillor Masuku. Can we kindly circulate water for the councillors that are raising their bottles? Please, can we kindly circulate water? Councillor Masuku. Can we have a roving mic? We'll circulate water for all councillors.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. On a point of personal explanation, as I was closing and requesting council to note the reports, I do want to say the Oversight Committee just wants to know if the city is strained financially and we have money or not. That's all we want.
Personal clarity, Councillor Masuku. Councillors, the recommendations for this report are on pages 12.5, 13.2, 29.11, and 29.12. Are the items agreed to? Thank you. Can we move to the next item?
Councillors, item 14 is the performance assessment report for the Human Settlement Department for the 2021-22 financial year for the period April to June 2022. Read together with item 15, which is a performance assessment report for the Johannesburg Social Housing Company for the 2021-22 financial year for the period April to June 2022. Both items read together with item 30, which is an oversight report of the Housing Section 79 Committee on the 2021-22 fourth quarter performance assessment report of the Department of Housing and the Johannesburg Social Housing Company for the period April to June 2022.
Councillor Polobosho.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I arise on behalf of Section 79 Committee of Women Settlement. I table item 14, performance assessment report for the Women Settlement for the 2021-2022 financial year for the period of April to June 2022. Then item 15, performance assessment report for the Johannesburg Social Housing Company for the 2021-2022 financial year for the period of April to June 2022, and also item 13, the oversight. Speaker, on behalf of the Section 79 Committee, we ask the Council to consider the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nenemba.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Greetings to the Executive Mayor. Greetings to the EFF caucus, fellow councillors. Speaker, again, we meet here to discuss the report of the Department of Human Settlement and JOSCO, which is clouded
by greater failures, targets that are not being met, inconsistent reporting, and figures, a trend that is not new. It brings to question if the robust inputs of the Section 79 committees are being taken seriously. If for every quarter we'll be sitting with the same problems of the previous quarter. We must remind the Department of Human Settlement that we are public representatives constitutionally mandated to hold the executive accountable. The people of Mahala View, Nanas Farm, Kokotela, and many of Johannesburg township and informal settlements relies on us taking this oath seriously. Speaker, we note the 99.8 expenditure of the CAPEX in this quarter. However, it will be great if the maximum usage of the budget translated in reaching targets across all 13 KPIs. Because as it stands, only 10 of the 10 KPIs targets are reached. Even the 10, when properly zoomed in, becomes questionable. For instance, you come and report a refurbishment of 5 old age homes, but when in true sense, you merely do touch-ups to a guardrooms, like you did in Karina and Northern Place old age homes. Speaking of old age homes, when are you going to report on old age homes in our townships, where the majority of our people reside? Now moving to Josko, as if it can get any worse. How does Josko justify having spent 98% of their CAPEX budget when they have achieved less than 30% of their set targets? One of the EFF non-negotiable cardinal pillars calls for the building of a state and government capacity. Speaker, I do not want to engage Josko's work or lack thereof, but we want to leave the stage with the following words: Josko board must go. Thank you very much.
Councillor Nsidi.
Must go. Must go.
Councillor Nsidi.
Yes.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Good evening to you and fellow councillors. Speaker, it appears that the department is doing well in many folds, despite all of the historical challenges created by the ANC, because all they know is to loot public funds. That's their specialty, Speaker, and they cannot dispute that. We want to see the department excelling, Speaker, particularly on provision of housing to our people. As we all know, most of our residents in the city are still living under squalor conditions, and will really like to see the dignity of our people being restored as soon as possible. There are many informal settlements, Speaker and councillors, and one of them is Slovo Park Informal Settlement in Ward 69 in Region B. This informal settlement has been there for more than 28 years. May the department please work around the clock to ensure that these residents are humanely housed, because this cannot be allowed to continue for 28 years into democracy. We want to raise our concerns and pose these particular questions regarding Josko, the entity that appears to be in ICU. When will the entity ensure that it collects rent for its rental stock and conduct audit on Josko stock? And as corruption is a norm in the ANC, I really suspect that those who are not paying rent there are cadres. Because we have been told that all the times by officials that they are battling to deal with rent collections. Speaker, there's a building also in Doornfontein at the corners of Nugget and Wolmaranstad. That is Nugget building. It has been completed, but it's still unoccupied. Can we be provided with clarity regarding this building? Flare off wrong allocations. When this will be resolved, Speaker?
Nsidi, kindly take your seat. There's a hand. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The councillor again is misleading the House here. He's speaking about the Corner Nugget and Wolmaranstad in Johannesburg. Do we have that? No.
Councillor Nsidi, you've got 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Please proceed.
Having said that, Speaker, I want to commend MMC Mabaso for showing a political will to assist our people with only 10 months in office. Unlike ANC looters who have been in government for years but failed our people with empty promises. Alex residents are still waiting for their 1 million houses. Promised by Mr. Promises, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I wonder what Chair Rapadu is still pushing Mr. Palapala Matras lies.
Councillor Nsidi. Councillor Nsidi.
With those concerns, Action SA notes the report.
Chair Rapadu. Chair Rapadu.
Thank you, Speaker. There's one thing I think we should do in this House, and we should not let people just cast aspersion without any evidence. That's why Mr. Edwin was fired for unethical journalism for such things. You understand? He was fired for ethical journalism for such things. But on my point, Speaker, on my point, please can we be provided with that statement where that says there will be 1 million houses, because he's saying it in this House. Thank you.
Councillor, please. Councillor Nsidi. Councillor Nsidi, you've got 2 minutes. Please proceed. 2 minutes. Are you done? Okay.
Speaker, with those concerns, Action SA notes the report. I thank you.
Councillor Chami.
Greetings, Madam Presiding Officer, Executive Mayor Mpho Palazzi, Leader of Executive Business, Chief Whip of Council, Chair of Chairs, MMCs, fellow councillors, and the House at large. Madam Presiding Officer, I hereby speak on quarterly performance assessment reports by the Department of Human Settlements and JOSCO, as well as the 2021-22 business plan of the Department of Human Settlements on items 14, 15, and 30 oversight reports. The Department of Housing for the 4th quarter is reporting on 13 key performance indicators, KPIs. The overall performance reflects that only 10 indicators were achieved. This KPI falls under the inclusive strategic priority. The unreporting on cumulative annual targets for 2021-22 financial year is to upgrade the infrastructure of 13 informal settlements to phase 2. The target for the quarter under review is 13 informal settlements, and the department reports that 6 is an accumulative figure. As the report does not provide a breakdown of how many informal settlements were upgraded to phase 2, this trend of reporting on accumulative instead of actual is deceiving and hinders proper oversight. The department developed its first issue of the City of Johannesburg Housing Research publication. The publication presents a platform for research conducted in the department and in the broader housing and human settlement sector to contribute to shaping the policy and research discourse, influence the direction in policy formulation. Furthermore, the publication presents an opportunity to the department to tell its story while addressing the challenges that is confronted with, Access to housing is a constitutional right and one of the city's key priorities. Not much was mentioned regarding upgrading and eradication of informal settlements. No substantive progress has been done in this area. The department continues to go underperform. Informal settlements still lack water, sanitary, and electricity provision. They might be lucky with a JoJo tank from the 22-day ex-mayor as an expert present. Hostels, flats, and retirement villages, these stocks are old and cannot be repaired or refurbished due to lack of regular maintenance and upkeep. The budget and work that has been done was wasteful. A lot of money was spent, yet there was no delivery. JOSCO's performance against the 21-22 business plan, the detailed report outlines remedial action to be implemented in areas where targets were not met. The entity has 21 key performance indicators and targets in the 21-22 business plan. In Q4, 20 targets were due for reporting, with 6 targets achieved, while 14 were not achieved. Financial metrics are worrying across the board. The collection of data show that the entity is factually insolvent. Majority of projects continue to experience stoppages. In Q2 alone, the entity reported a deficit of 41.1 million. The year-to-date loss at the time it was reported at was 62.1 million. Next, I want to address the lack of maintenance of our facilities. Most residential facilities in the city are in a terrible state and do not comply with basic norms and standards. On a good note, JOSCO reports that it has achieved 98.26% occupancy rate in the Q4 achievement, the set target. Another target that the entity has achieved is that 22 out of its buildings, conditional assessments were done. This was an overachievement as the target for the quarter was 10. Well done to JOSCO. Madam Presiding Officer, I can promise you that nothing is more fulfilling to the human heart than being able to contribute to the provision of a roof over a family that is destitute and has waited to be provided with the security and comfort that a house provides. There is a huge demand for accommodation, yet the homeless and vulnerable please for accommodation fall on deaf ears. This is a worrying factor. ANC handed one house on the 15th of October in South Hills. Have they forgotten about the long waiting lists? Madam Presiding Officer, it is sad that the 1996-97 housing waiting list for the city of Johannesburg is still not released. The residents of Johannesburg who are supposed to be on the list still have no access to a verified, transparent, updated list. Desperate residents are waiting in limbo. Let me just remind this House that the waiting list is now at 480,000. This is an inheritance from the ANC government. The reality is that the rapidly rising rate of urbanization will continue to put pressure on the housing delivery system in cities and lead to the increasing number of informal settlements. Our informal settlements are mushrooming all over the city with no action plan to stop the illegal invasions of land. Our informal settlements upgrading program is currently underperforming. Madam Presiding Officer, a country facing a housing crisis when a significant part of the population doesn't have access to a safe, decent home that's suitable for their needs and that they can genuinely afford to live in. We have a long way to go in ensuring that everyone gets a piece of the promised land. I am confident that under this multi-party government, our executive mayor, Dr. Palazzi, will ensure that the waiting list be reduced and that everyone on the waiting list gets adequate housing accommodation. The golden repair has just started. I thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Councillor Nkubungu.
Greetings to you, Speaker, to the leadership of the glorious movement, the African National Congress, led by the Honorable Councillor Dada Morero, the incoming. I would send my special salutations